Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Paumiko dog training Q&A. These Q&As are from questions from people in the Paumiko Inner Circle. People in the Paumiko Inner Circle are following the Paumiko Dog Guide, which is a full training video series of mine. You can find out more about the Paumiko Dog Guide at paumikodogtraining.com. You can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Paumiko Dog Training. And you can listen to more of these Q&As on the Paul Michaels podcast. Look up the Paumiko Q&As on there. Let's get into it. Hey, all these questions are the same thing. It's quite hard case. There's 4 questions and they're all on the same subject. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read all 4 questions and then I'm going to answer them all in one hit. Unless something else comes to mind while I'm reading them, which it probably will, and I'll probably just end up rambling about all of them for about an hour and a half. There's a good chance of that, but we'll see how we go. Hi Paul, my 9-week-old lab pup that I've had since she was 6.5 weeks keeps snapping and biting hard even after the command of disapproval 4 times. Is there a way I can stop that? Thanks, Josh. I'm going to carry on and come back to that. Rachel. Hi Paul, not sure if my post come through. We are struggling with our 10-week-old Hunterway cross. We give her a decent amount of crate time and then 15-minute run in between every few hours. However, what we have found is that when she is out, she starts to misbehave. We often have her out for free time, and it seems like in under 5 minutes, she then looks to get attention by doing something wrong. We then give her command of disapproval, which only results in her barking back at us and thinking it's a game. We have tried placing her back in her crate, as it could be too much free time. But we wonder, since she hasn't got her full vaccinations, whether she has too much energy that we aren't helping her to get rid of. We train her twice a day, yet that is a big sticking point. So some countries are different, but in New Zealand, we have a few things like parvo and different things that we need to be real careful with our pups. And our pups aren't fully vaccinated until they're at least 12 weeks old. We go through a series of vaccinations. I think I might be wrong about this, don't quote me on it. I'm not a vet. I haven't raised a litter of pups in a while. I think they get their first one when they're 4 or 6 weeks old, and they get another one when they're 8 or 12 weeks old, and they get another one after that. They need a good 2 or 3 series of shots. And some vets recommend slightly different things, so it's something in that. But the main thing is that we generally get our pups about 8 weeks old, sometimes a little bit earlier. I don't think it should be earlier than that. Sometimes it's a little bit later than that, but about they're 8 weeks old. And generally in New Zealand, we can't take our pups, an 8-week-old pup, out into an area where any other dogs have been until they're fully vaccinated, because we definitely don't want our pups getting parvo or something. So we're stuck with this pup, this 8-week-old pup that's brand new. It's super, super young. I was just talking in a Big Game Indicating Dogs Q&A about how the smartest dog, the fully mature, smartest dog, is about as old as a 3-year-old human. So we can never expect a pup or a dog to understand anything that we wouldn't expect a 3-year-old human to understand, let alone an 8-week-old pup, an 8, 9, 10, 12-week-old pup. It's like, so it's I don't know what the percentage is, but it's something like less than a 1-year-old human in intelligence. And it's actually quite amazing that they can do and understand as much as they do. That they can, they're 8 weeks old and they're like running around and barking, and they can sort of start understanding stuff. And it's easy to have our perspective skewed a little bit by looking at what they can do physically, but really they're super, super simple mentally at that time. And we're working on super, super simple stuff. And we're just starting to begin the beginnings of some of the patterns and relationships and things that we need to set up. But we can't expect much from the pup at all at this age. In that first month, we're not expecting anything. And we actually talk about that. Other than putting a little bit of pressure on a pup or a dog in the crate, if a pup's making heaps of noise in the crate, it's really freaking out, we will do a stamp of the foot and a command of disapproval to try and snap the pup out of that mode of barking and whining and being stressed out. We're putting pressure on what we don't want. We're just trying to tell the pup that there's no point in doing that and you don't have to do it. And we're trying to break that cycle and get our pup happy and relaxed in the crate. But we don't want to get into conflict with it as far as it starts biting. We're like, hey, no, don't bite. And it keeps biting. We really need to avoid getting into conflict with a pup that's so young because they're literally incapable of understanding. It's a very simple mental processing that's going on up there. And all it knows is that it's a pup and it's just reacting to the world around it. And quite often part of that is they just want to bite stuff, and the best way of dealing with this is really with a young pup, particularly before, while it's like 12 weeks old, before it's 12 or 14 or 16 weeks old. Most of these questions here are 8 weeks old, 10 weeks old, 9 weeks old. I think the oldest one is 12 weeks old. It's really trying to avoid the situation. So what that looks like to me is if I'm, say with Miko, for example, Miko didn't really go through that phase. Print did. Print went through a biting phase as a pup. It only lasted about 2 or 3 weeks. Because I dealt with it perfectly and I wasn't doing any of the things that can prolong it outside of that either. There's certain things that you can do to deal with a negative behavior perfectly, and that's obviously going to help a lot. But at the same time, while you're doing that, while you're doing those things that are dealing with the behavior perfectly, there's other things that you can do that almost bring out and enhance the negative behavior. So you're making it worse. So you can do something that makes it better over here, but at the same time over here, you're doing something else that's making it worse, and the two sort of cancel each other out. And it doesn't matter how much you do of the good thing, the bad thing over here just continuously makes it worse and worse, and you just get freaking nowhere. And you're like, I'm doing the good thing. Why isn't it working? It's because over here it's getting screwed up. So with Print, what that looked like dealing with it perfectly was he would be in the kennel or a crate. With Print, it was in a kennel. Print was kennelled outside right from a pup. In the Paumiko Dog Guide, we show you how to use a crate inside. And then we transition to the kennel later on. Print was outside. So what this would look like for me is I would go out when Print was 9 weeks old, let him out of the kennel. He'd go straight on the line. I'd open the door of the kennel and put the long line on him in the kennel and let him out. And we'd start. At the time, I was fortunate that I had quite a big section, quite a big backyard. And we'd start walking around the section. And again, at this early stage, we're not going for compliant. There's the fact that the idea that a pup can misbehave in that situation, we almost shouldn't say that. There's not really much that a pup can do that it shouldn't do in that situation. There is, but there isn't really. We don't want the pup completely attacking us. But in my experience, I've never really seen that where it just attacks and bites you. Particularly if you deal with it properly, and I'm getting to that. But what it would look like, well, going back to that, I'm not I'm not going for compliance. So I'm not saying sit Print. And then if he doesn't sit, I'm not like, Print sit, and pushing his bum down if he tries to get up. No, sit. There's no compliance work in that first 4 weeks. It's the same in the Paumiko dog guide. I'm walking around out in the park or in the section with Miko with the long line on, and if she comes towards me, I kneel down and say, Miko, come. And she comes running in and she gets there and I give her a pat. Good girl. And we walk off. Every now and again, I'd say, Miko, come. And she'd come in. I'd say, Miko, sit. And push your bum down. Give her a pat. And then I say, double peak whistle, and we walk off again. I'm not making her stay in the sit. There's no compliance. I'm linking actions with commands. So there's no situation there where it's like, no, sit, come here, no, bad dog. And there's no conflict there, okay? So with Print, there was no conflict in the drills. But what he started to do was, if I tried to do a drill, he'd come running up to me and I'd sort of kneel down, Print, come. So I'm linking my come command with him running in. And then he'd get to me and I'm sort of thinking about maybe doing a sit drill, a zero compliance sit drill, just push his bum down while saying sit. And as soon as he's sitting, good boy, and then basically let him get up without making him stay there. But he comes running in and I'm thinking about doing a sit, so I kneel down and there's no nice little pup stopping and getting a pat. It's just coming straight in. It's just mouth just latching on to whatever's in front of him, which is my hands, my knee, my foot. And here's the key here really is disengage. Just 100,000% complete disengagement. If when the pup starts biting, you start going, no, it just turns into a game. And they'll start barking back and growling and biting even harder. And unless you're willing to escalate over and above what your pup's doing, which you should never do, because what are you going to do? The pup's biting you, so you're going to just completely, you're going to grab it and scratch, and like, you can't do that. We don't do that. Someone else, and I'll read these other questions, but someone else talked about her pup jumped up on her daughter. Where is it? Because she jumped up on my daughter before, I did try and show my dominance, which could have hindered our relationship. So that's it's a little bit vague. I did try and show my dominance, which could have hindered our relationship. And I've seen people say that early on when a pup does that stuff, you grab them and hold them down on the ground and pin them on the ground and say, no, and show your dominance and show that you're stronger than the pup. And if you do it when they're a pup, they remember it forever or something. I've tried most things in dog training. I've tried treat training and e-collars and place boards, and I've tried that. I've tried holding a pup down, not hurting it, just holding it down, pinning it down. Tiny little 8-week-old pup. I'm 6'6" and 110 kilos. I can hold a pup down. And it had absolutely no effect whatsoever. It just was completely confusing and distressing and frustrating for the pup. And the pup just ended up laying on its side, like going, "Arr, arr," and it had no effect whatsoever. And then I let the pup up, and the pup was just like, whoa, that was the weirdest shit ever. It's just, you just can't even go down that route, So what I recommend, and what I ended up doing with Print, which worked very, very well, is just completely disengage. He's coming in to play and jump up and bite and do all that. So if what this looks like here with this 5-minute thing, and the pup's good for 5 minutes, and then they start misbehaving, so I start trying to use command of disapproval, but it just escalates and gets worse. You can use a command of disapproval, a little check on the long line command of disapproval or something like that, but it has to be very, very quick and you're disengaging out of it. And what I mean by that is, let's use that example. Print comes running in. I'm thinking about doing a quick non-compliant stop drill and giving him a pat and moving on. But as soon as I kneel down and put my hands out, he just comes in and just latches onto one of my hands. I'd go, and maybe give him a touch with the end of my fingers, which because it's very hard to give the grab the long line and give a little check and a command of disapproval all at the same time. But if he's biting my hand, if he's biting one hand, I can touch him, which is basically equivalent of pushing him away from my hand as I step up and back and walk away. I'm not, sitting him down and staying in the situation and getting into conflict. It's just every time he opens his mouth or lifts a paw off the ground, it just gets a snap. All that whole interaction just gets cut off instantly, and I stand up and walk away. And we walk. Movement is great. Breaking things up with time and space. And what I mean by time is literally that time between interactions, and you need to break it up with space too, because if you try to do it with time, if the pup starts biting you and you just stand up and don't go anywhere, the pup's just like, and it's either going to start biting you or it's going to want to just drift away, or you're not really getting anything done. But if you go, command of disapproval, push the pup away, stand up, turn and walk all at the same time, and you should have your long line, then you should be able to get the pup to come with you, and the pup should just naturally be thinking, we're going somewhere. That's the biggest thing, is as soon as you disengage, stand up and walk, something's happening. And that's really what the pup wants to happen. And talking about we can't go out, so can't leave the section because we need to get the rest of our shots. And I'm wondering if the pup just needs more exercise and excitement. You're 100% right, and it does. And it can be hard to deal with in those first few weeks until you can leave the section. But what I did with Print was I just had to walk around in circles around the house, and go in different directions and different paths, and then just make him look like, whoa, what's happening next? And he'd just forget about chewing on my hand and just be like trying to keep up. And then I'd maybe, again, break it up with time and space, at least a minute, and then I'd maybe try pick a time when he's 2 or 3 meters away, 3-4 meters away, sniffing the ground and doing something, and I'd kneel down again. And as soon as he looks like he's going to come, I say, Print, come. So I'm linking my come command to him coming to me, which is good, just linking actions to commands. And if he gets to me and bites again, I'd maybe try to go, I'd do the full push away and walk away, disengage 2 or 3 times. And if I can see any slight improvement, I'd maybe try to go push him away and get him to just pause for a second. And then I'm trying to put my hand out and pat him without him biting me. And now we're getting into reading and timing and correcting the thought. And so I'm going pushing the pup away, sharp little push and and then which is going to make them stand back and just think, whoa, hang on, what the hell? And then I'm trying to reach out, and as soon as they open a mouth or lift a paw, I'm going, and now I can actually go, I talk about the application and releasing of pressure and praise. It's very important. And the releasing of pressure and praise can be just as important as the application of it. So now what I'm doing is my hand going out as I'm going out to try and engage with the pup or praise the pup. And as soon as they open a mouth or lift a paw, I'm going to pull that hand back. That's releasing praise. And here you can see how mixed up and complicated and subtle the application and releasing, and it's more complicated than that, because it's the timing and measure of the application and releasing of pressure and praise. It's a pretty simple sentence, but when you actually start putting it all into practice with a pup, it's actually very, very complicated. And things are happening really quickly, and you're going from pressure to praise to applying and releasing, and it's just all over the place. Because a hand going out can be pressure, and then the pup waits, and then I'm pulling my hands back to my body, and as soon as I see a slight pause of the pup not trying to step back in to bite or bark or claw me with its paws, now my hand's going back out and I'm trying to give praise. So now I'm trying to apply praise. And the way I turn my hand going out from pressure to praise is as my hand goes out, I go, and I touch the dog and push it away. Pull my hands back, and as soon as the pup's standing nice and calm, mouth closed, forepaws on the ground, and I'm trying to correct the thought here. As soon as I think the pup's not thinking about wanting to bite me anymore, now I'm going, if it's Miko, I'm saying good girl. As my hand goes out, good girl, as my hand goes out. So now that is applying praise. And that hand's going out as good girl, good girl. As soon as the pup opens its mouth or lifts a paw, now I go, as my hand comes back in. Because I'm releasing praise and switching it to pressure. I hope is this making sense to you? Yeah. I hope this is making sense. And the idea is as soon as you can use that pressure and that disengagement to cut the pup off from biting and clawing and barking, and disengagement is there as a tool when no amount of reading and timing or anything gets the job done. It's just a 9-week-old pup with very little intelligence. And nothing that you can do is going to stop it. You're just going to get into unnecessary conflict with it. You just disengage and just keep walking. And then if you try to stop again, it tries to do it again. You just look at it as a 9-week-old pup with like the intelligence of a 7-month-old human baby, but it just happens to be able to run and bite. And you just give it the benefit of the doubt and go, okay, it's 7, and just keep walking. And then try again tomorrow and try again the day after that and try again the day after that. But you should be, I've never had a pup that I haven't somewhere along the line been able to get 1 or 2 seconds of padding in. And then I get that pad in, and even if it's 1 or 2 seconds, good girl, good boy. And the second it opens its mouth, or a paw comes off the ground, I go, and I pull back. And if it wants to actually engage and pursue, then I'll go, and push it away and get up and walk. And then break it up with time and space, do 1 lap around the house, come back to the same point, or a different point, and kneel down again, have another try. Pup comes in, jumps up, bites, claws, push it down, and have a go. Good girl, good boy, reaching the hand out. If you get a hand on its back and you get to pat it twice for 1.5 seconds, and then it tries to bite, you go and pull back. And then you see them start to click. You'll reach out, you get 1.5 seconds of padding, and the pup opens its mouth to bite you, and you go and pull back, and the pup just pauses for 0.5 second, and it looks at you and thinks. And then you give it another chance, you reach out, and you can see them go, and you pat it, and it gets, this time you get 3 seconds. And then you get up and walk away, and the pup starts to realize there's just no point in this biting thing. And when I don't, I actually just get a pat, and then we walk on, then we move on. That's basically it. That's basically the answer to all of these. Stephen saying, hi Paul, I'm new to this site, really enjoying the training with my 12-week-old Kelpie Max. My question is, how do we stop him nipping? He is very gentle, but he is constantly doing it even when he is calm. He likes fingers. Also, what is a good way to get him to take food gently out of our hands? We normally only feed him from his food bowl, but occasionally we will give him a treat and he will snap at it and sometimes get our fingers. That's one of the many reasons I don't do treat training. Yeah, and it's quite a common thing actually with treat training, and you see people that have done it or do it, the dog's always looking at their hands and they're always sort of biting and looking at the hands, and I really don't do it. We talk about that in the Paumiko dog guide, about how I feed my dogs, and I feed my dogs only at the right time, in the right bowl, in the right place, and I never feed them while I'm eating. And that means very quickly, by the time my dogs are a few months old, I can be cooking in the kitchen or eating right in front of them. And it just means absolutely nothing to them. They never stare at you or drooling or waiting for a bit because I've never given them something, so it doesn't register. And in fact, if they do, and you know, it's a dog, they can smell food and think, man, that looks edible. And so, in a couple of times, Miko has, like, I've been eating, put my bowl down on the coffee table, and she's like, oh shit, this could work out all right. And I've just gone, nah. And because I've never encouraged it, it's taken very little pressure to get her just to remember or to continue to realize that there's just nothing to do with her. Angela, I've got a 9-week-old Vizsla male and a very gentle 10-year-old Border Collie rescue, Luna. The puppy, I've only had him for a week, takes a lot more force and completely ignores me or barks to answer back unless my voice is strong and I stamp my foot. But this scares Luna. How do I deal with both dogs together? I'm training separately, but if she hears me dealing with them, she responds, and they are in the same place a lot. Also, how much snapping and answering back, mostly demanding like a tantrum, should he be allowed to do when he is this little? I'm not sure how soft or controlled I should be with him now. So it's all the same thing, really. Oh yeah, and there's a photo of the older dog and the pup curled up in the bed, and the older dog's like got its head as far away from the pup as it can, looking in the other direction, just like, what is this thing doing in my bed? Which is classic. But again, it's just like all of these things are the same thing, in that it's really just a matter of sticking to the program as much as you can. And you're going to have challenges, and your pup might try to bark or bite at you, or it might try to do different things, and you're putting pressure on the pup. And the older dog's thinking, what the hell's going on here? So you've got to minimize it as much as possible, maybe more time in the crate for the pup. Really try to stay away from conflict with your pup using those things that I was just talking about. Really good reading and timing, the application and releasing of pressure and praise. That disengagement is huge. If a pup that's under sort of 12 or 16 weeks old is trying to bite and mouth you or claw you or bark at you, using the command of disapproval and you can use it, and it's actually quite important to at least go no and push it down, or a little check on the long line and stand up and walk away. You just standing up and walk, just calmly standing up and walking away without doing the old 100% positive dog training, and I just ignore all the bad things my dog does and reward the good things. It doesn't work, because with some pups in that situation, it starts biting you, so you stand up and walk away nicely, it's just going to start biting the back of your legs. You have to at least let them know that that's not the type of thing that you want it to be doing. At least command a disapproval, check on the long line, that sort of thing. Little push away, but don't overdo it, and don't try to lock into the situation and just going, no, push it back, and trying to repeat that same thing until the pup stops doing it. If it's under 12 or 16 weeks old, it just hasn't got the processing power to even understand that, and you're just creating a pattern and a habit and screwing up the relationship with your dog. That's why that disengagement and zero compliance in those super early weeks is so important. And that's why really sticking to that program and really watching it, those early parts of the Paumiko Dog Guide and what I do with Miko, and how it's super chill and relaxed, and we're just getting out into an open space with no rules, and we're just trying to link actions with commands and keep it super light and fun and get a bit of a bond and relationship started with our pup, super important. It's a bit different later on with an adult dog, but all of these questions are talking about really young pups nipping, and that's all the important stuff on that. That's it. So again, big thanks to everyone who signed up to the Paumiko Dog Guide. If you're watching the video version of this, you can listen to the audio version of this and many more Paumiko dog training Q&As on the Paul Michaels podcast. There's a heap of other stuff on there too, but you can just scroll through, look at the titles, Paumiko Q&As. You can go to paumikodogtraining.com. All the Q&As on there, time coded up and everything. Yeah, and you can use the search bar and all of that. Yeah, so you can go to, if you have a biting or food or long line or sit drill or a specific question, you can go to paumikodogtraining.com, type in a keyword, and all of the Q&As with that question will come up, and they're indexed with time code, so you can go and listen to just that answer. There's not a whole heap of them over there, but there's slowly getting more and more. And if you're following the Paumiko Dog Guide, just ask the question on the Q&A post in a circle, and we'll get right to it. We fell into a bad pattern of just being super busy and all sorts of stuff going on sort of earlier this year, where we weren't getting to these soon enough. We've got to this one not as soon as I would like to, but sooner than last time. Last time there was a huge gap. This one I want to try and get within 2 or 3 weeks. 4 weeks at the absolute max. So again, if you're following the Paumiko Dog Guide, you're in the inner circle, ask your question there, throw up photo. We love seeing photos of your pups and dogs that are on the Paumiko Dog Guide too, and we love getting real good photos and little success stories and of people that are doing well with the training that we can actually share on the public pages as well. That's really cool, and it encourages each other to get training and train good dogs, train happy dogs. That's it. I'm just completely rambling now. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.